Hey guys, Char5 here, and we are on day 11 of the Inktober challenge. Today, we continue on Cutesy Week with Emily and Victor Van Dort from Corpse Bride, a movie actually I think that was directed by Tim Burton, so technically this is the first film that we're covering that was done by Tim Burton. Well, no, that's not true. Edward Scissorhands. Never mind. First animated film, I guess. Although Nightmare Before Christmas, its initial story was written by Tim Burton. I don't think he had anything to do with the movie itself. He might have produced it. And Coraline was Henry Selick, who also directed The Nightmare Before Christmas. And Edward Scissorhands was a live-action film, so technically this is the first animated film that we're covering that was directed, I think, by Tim Burton. And I actually really liked this film. I remember when it came out, I wasn't all too crazy about it, but a lot of people around me were, and I think I can't really glean which one is more popular in Mexico, because this one was really popular for a while. I think even like more so popular than Nightmare was. And I never got to really fully see it when it came out, even though I really wanted to. I was really interested in it, and it was one of those movies that I wanted to see, but I just never got around to it. So as time went on, I kind of like lost interest in watching it. And every time I would get to watch it, it was in parts, you know. I remember it was one of those movies that I would have liked to go see in theaters, but then I never did, and so the movie always sort of felt new to me until it started appearing on TV, and it's just like, wow, it still feels new, you know? Like, it feels weird that it's on TV now because this movie still feels new to me, and I think it's part of that is because I've never seen it, you know, fully and completely, or at least I didn't see it by the time it came out. Another movie that I feel that way about is Spider-Man 3, actually, because there was another movie that I didn't really see it at all when it came out, so by the time it was on TV and it was the first time I'd seen it, it felt weird to me. It felt like this will never not be new. It was a really weird sensation. And even then, when I did watch this film, Corpse Bride, I'd only ever see the beginning part of it or the ending part. You know, like I never watched it as a whole segment until like much later. And I gotta say, I think from beginning to end, it is sort of it's a very interesting tale, but I think it sort of escalates pretty quickly within the first act. You know, they're setting the stage, and what should be Act 2, which is like Victor going down to meet, you know, Emily, his corpse bride, it just also happens very quickly. And one thing that I think this movie is animated amazingly. Like, I think it might just even top Coraline. Like, despite the fact that this movie came out first, I think it actually might beat Coraline in terms of how impressive I think it is. Although, I do gotta say, Coraline was pretty damn impressive, so I'd probably have to see Coraline again just to be able to compare the two. But every time I see this movie, and there are certain aspects of it that I see, and I'm just like, wow, this is stop motion. How did they achieve that? You know, like a lot of the flowing things, like Emily's veil and that like last scene, the way it flows and everything is like, how did they must have like had green screen something and then just deleted it digitally in post, but because it looks so good. One thing that actually I hadn't thought about until I'd seen a review recently that I didn't even notice, but that I actually do think is true. The characters don't really seem to emote all that much, you know? Like, and it's funny because the characters in The Nightmare Before Christmas were way more expressive. And I don't know if that might have something to do with the direction, because, again, it wasn't directed by the same person. Burton directed this, and Selick directed Nightmare, so it might have had something to do with direction, but I don't know, because visually the style is pretty much the same. But yeah, like, the only expression that anyone ever has in the film is, like, the one they were born with, basically. Like, I think for Victor, he barely ever seems happy. He looks, like, spooked all the time. He always looks scared. Emily always seems content. I think Emily actually might be the most expressive character in this film, and she was really fun to draw. Like I was kind of afraid going in because, again, these are characters that their designs are either. I think in Victor's case, his design was so simple that it was so easy to get it wrong, and Emily was a little bit more complicated and therefore easy to get it wrong. But in terms of what I did, I think I did both of their designs fairly well. Emily a little bit more than Victor, and ironically, because I'm so used to drawing characters facing forward, and barely ever do I do them with their back toward the camera or, from a profile. So, like, the fact that I like the way Emily came out in this is kind of ironic to me because I like her. I wanted to do something more dynamic with them instead of just copying off, a normal pose from them or a scene from the film. Like, I wanted to do something a bit more, I wanted to challenge myself a little bit because for the past few drawings, all I was doing was just, I'm copying this, I'm copying that. And for the cartoons, I've wanted to expand a little bit and be like, okay, what is something I know that I don't do well? Like, okay, well, I know that I never do backs, so I can practice that. I never do profiles, so I can practice that. And I think it worked pretty well. Scraps, the dog, was improvised last second because I could not get Victor's shape right. So I originally was just going to be Victor and Emily, but using like the little bit of Victor's hair or the pieces of his head that I drew on there that I knew that I wasn't going to be able to delete, I figured, you know what? Okay, I'll just go for it. I'll just, I'll improvise. I'll draw Scraps. You know what? That's a good idea. I'll do that. So he might look he looks more Chihuahua-esque because he has a big ass head in the movie, but I was like, I have to make do with what I got. So yeah. But yeah, no, I really do like this film, and watching it completely, I think it is it's one of those movies that I think really just ends up telling a whole brand new fairy tale. And I think a lot of these stop-motion animated movies kind of end up doing that, Nightmare Before Christmas, it feels less so like a fairy tale and more so like an amalgamation of fairy tales. Coraline, it feels more like an adventure and a story than just a simple fairy tale. But Corpse Bride genuinely doesn't just feel like a story. It feels, like something that you can tell that would go on in history to be like, oh, there was once this woman that got left, like she was going to elope with her loved one, but she got left, and she got killed, and then like this man came up and he was so nervous of getting married that he ended up practicing his vows by himself, and he ended up marrying the corpse. And like, I don't know, there's a feeling to it that's so romantic, so charming, and the events that transpire throughout the film are so nice. Getting into a forced marriage and then finding out, hey, you know what, actually this might be okay. I think I do like the person that I've been set up with. This might be, because they're both in a very similar situation. They'd like to marry someone that they love, but they're really afraid of it, and then they find out, well, you know what, hey, I can love this person, that's cool. Like they don't seem uppity like my family is. And then marrying a corpse happens, and you gotta get used to this new world, especially because now you're without any forewarning, you're betrothed, and that it's hard to glean, it's hard to understand, but it's just how it happened. And now how do I get back to the real world? And now your bride to be has been in the real world, has been married, and now you're like, you know what, okay, I actually end up liking this woman. She's really harmless, she's really inoffensive, and she seems to love me, so why not just join her in death? Because we can't stay married because death already parted us. Like, I don't know. So many concepts about the film are just so really cool to me. And I think a lot of people like Nightmare more because of its traditional storytelling and its traditional values, and I think it's more present in people's mind. But personally, I think I like Corpse Bride more than Nightmare Before Christmas. just because it's like I know that Nightmare has a very unique story, but there's a charm to Corpse Bride's story that I think Nightmare doesn't have. And I think it's probably because it's a more universal thing, whereas Christmas and Halloween are very, you know, country-specific holidays, and Corpse Bride is more a story that you can tell almost anywhere, and people would get the same feeling for it, pretty much. And the idea of, you know, getting married out of convenience and not necessarily, like, out of love, I think is something that pretty much anyone can understand. Not because anyone's been through that, you know, feeling or that experience personally, but, you know, you can imagine what it's like, because a lot of countries may come from those backgrounds. But anyway, I did have a lot of fun drawing this. Again, I went for the whole outlining thing, and I do think that, again, it worked to its advantage. One thing I didn't like about the piece was the fact that, you know, near the bottom, like where Victor's arms are and where Emily's dress is, you know, I don't think I had enough of a contrast, so it kind of just blends in, and it doesn't do it very well. The veil, I think I could have made it better, but for what it's worth, I think I did an okay job with it. I had to do a lot of hatching, a lot of, you know, making it look like a dress, and it wasn't easy. Doing the back, the shading for the back was also kind of difficult. But I ended up really, really liking this piece. This is the final version of the piece. This is the complete version of the piece. And you know what? I actually really do like it. Scraps, like I said, could have been done better. His head is a little too small, but all in all, I am proud with what I did. I think I used the space that I had really well, and I can't wait to draw what I'm going to do tomorrow, which is pretty much the furthest from... It's the least one that's like Tim Burton, and I don't know who directed it, but it might have been him. I don't even know if that's the one that's next. The next one also might be a Tim Burton movie, or it might not be. I don't remember which one is next. But that one I actually don't have recorded. That's why I don't remember which one it is, because usually I record these in advance, but I haven't been doing it right now because... I've been drawing so much for other projects alongside Inktober. I don't know why I've been doing that. But I will get to that tomorrow, and, you know, tell me if you like this movie or not. What do you like about this film? Until next time, guys, stay safe and stay awesome. This is Char5, signing off.